What's up, everybody? Thank you for coming back to see us. This is Mokuphu Gaming. We're going to bring you our roundtable of episode 3 of WandaVision, which was just last weekend. So, everything that happened in that episode was really, really crazy. Things are starting to get moving on the series. Once again, with me, I got my main man, Tone, and also I got down below me, I got Big Gil. So we're gonna start this off. Let's go with your initial reactions to the episode. I know things got really crazy in that episode, and things are starting to unravel a bit. Um, Tone, why don't you kick us off with what your impressions were of that episode?
Yeah, honestly, this is the best episode for me so far. Like I mentioned before, the first couple episodes they were slow. They were dragging. I didn't find the humor too funny. I understand the whole concept. I love what they're doing, but I just thought they weren't executing well. The acting just came across as lackluster for me. But this episode, because they're weaving in more kind of like, you know, glitches or things that we're kind of seeing wrong and the world's kind of falling apart. The intrigue is more there. It's like, okay, this is not just about these sitcoms. They're actually like starting to build a story of what's really going on. And I thought that the first two episodes were not doing enough of that. Um, and this episode, they really went more.
Yeah, man, I totally agree with Tone. This is definitely the best episode that I've seen so far. The first two, like, if you watched the last episode, I said I fell asleep in the middle of episode 2, rewatched it, and then it was just, it's all like looking for Easter eggs and symbolism, like that's all you're seeing is just like all these comic book Easter eggs, like all these, Marvel Easter eggs. And it's just, I think it's cool how they're going from like meta comedy to all of a sudden like serious like Marvel content, like she switches that way. I think she's doing a great job acting, like going from like 50s, 60s comedy to now we're in the Brady Bunch era or whatever that is. And just the way they film it, it's definitely true to the era for sure, like the way they do it. Overall, I think it's definitely the best episode. A lot of symbolism with the stork, and a lot of other things going on that I'm sure we're going to get into, but it's definitely my favorite episode so far.
All right. I kind of agree with you guys. Tone, I actually enjoyed the first two episodes because, like, kind of what Jerome mentioned in the last roundtable we had, like, they had that little aside there in there when they had the dinner party, and there's like, hey, they're starting their story, give them some time, they're setting it up, and I think that was basically what the first two episodes were for me. It was a setup for what was going on. I definitely feel the same way that if they kept going with that same exact kind of route where they just do sitcom after sitcom with just tiny little things here and there coming out, it definitely wouldn't have lasted an entire season for me. But now that they're ramping it up, you can see that those first two episodes were kind of the setup, and now they're starting to pay off right now. So I definitely agree with both of you guys that this was one of the best of episodes so far. The humor was still there for me. Like I thought a lot of the jokes that they had were pretty funny and stuff like that, but it was a little bit odd and a little bit off color sometimes. And then just the whole symbolism and everything is always nice to see things in there, and you're like, oh, I understand that. I see this. I see that. So I really liked that as well. And then how everything's starting to come off the rails was really, really like interesting to me. Just seeing how she's starting to react and things are happening, and then you can tell like where the story's going and what's taking place now. Uh, so that was my impressions of it, and I really liked it. It is the best episode so far for me. Anyways, moving on. A lot of weird things happened in the episode. Um, Gil, why don't you give us your takes on what you thought were some of the strangest things that kind of occurred, or anything that you found was out of place in the episode?
Well, I think what was out of place was just Vision in general. Like we talked about in the last episode. So she's creating this reality wherever it may be. She's creating it. She's controlling people in it. She's controlling the event. She's controlling the dialogue. So, I mean, obviously we talked about it. He's gone, right? So if she's creating who Vision is, maybe she's controlling his like robotic tusk somehow or whatever. I don't know what's going on quite a bit, but like she's controlling the dialogue that's coming out of his mouth because she's controlling everybody else's mind for the most part. Like, why doesn't he understand what's happening? Or like when they did the rewind, when he was questioning the reality of things after talking to the neighbors, and then she did the quick rewind, and then it went to the sitcom, like kind of happy music, like, there's like a funny line or whatever he said. Why isn't she controlling exactly what he's saying if she's controlling everything that's happening around it? And he doesn't even exist for the most part anymore, allegedly, Like, that's what I don't really understand. Like, I understand the beekeeper, maybe that's symbolism for, like whoever it is, shield or some force that's trying to get in, and she rewinds off of that, and and it's a defense kind of reaction. But like the way she controls others that are in the environment, especially Vision, he doesn't even seem to understand why she's pregnant. Like, and how fast the kids are growing. When the doctor was there, she kind of squeezed his his leg, and because he was asking too many questions about how is she this far along. Like, she like kind of squeezed him, like he's asking questions of his own individual thinking, even though she's controlling everything that's happening and the neighbors and everything else that's going on. So I thought that was super interesting, and not exactly sure what's going on with that. I definitely think like something's going on with Agnes, the neighbor. Either she's enabling her to create this environment, or she's constricting her into this environment. And I thought what was a really cool callback is she always talks about Ralph, like her husband, like that you never really see, like, who is that guy? Like, she always talks about, oh, Ralph. She always makes kind of a funny anecdote about him, and you never really even see him. Like, you can tell things kind of unravel a bit, even though she's controlling it, but I just don't understand the Vision aspect of it.
Are we sure that she's like controlling everything though? Because I mean, like the stork, for example, like the stork comes in and she tries to get rid of the stork, but she can't. So she just doesn't want to get rid of the stork. Like, really? Or is she not really in full control of everything? Because I definitely think she does control things to a certain point, but I don't think she has the ultimate control of the reality. Maybe it is Agnes, or maybe it's Agnes's husband that everyone thinks is Mephisto. Mephisto, is that his name? Mephisto.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if we're sure yet that she is the one that she obviously has power there. She can rewind things and control. Seems to be able to control Vision, or at least um, some of what he thinks, because he or makes thoughts go away anyways. So yeah, I'm not sure if we know that she's the one yet.
I'm sorry. I think she is in control of things, but when she went into labor, that's when she kind of lost control of it. Like, I thought one of the coolest, like, metaphors of her losing, like, or her water breaking was when it started raining. And then when she went into, full blown, like, like the kids coming out, then everything starts going crazy and she can't control any of it. I think she is in control of it, just not during those moments when she's like, just straight into birthing the baby.
Yeah.
Well, so here's my take on it. My take is that she's created this world, right? That she's basically created to protect herself from all the trauma and stuff like that. And she's created Vision. Like, she's used her magic to create Vision in her image, and she made him as close to him as possible. She's not necessarily controlling all of the people in the environment. They are in there for some reason. Um, but obviously, as we saw with Geraldine, like, she was an actual person who managed to be in there, which I think is also the case with all of the other people who are actually in there. They're in there trying to infiltrate, and then try and get her back under control. She's created this giant bubble of a world, and Vision is an actual creation of it. That's why when he starts queuing in on the things that are amiss, that's why she can reset him. And she realizes, like, it's kind of like in the Matrix, where they were like, oh, we have to rebuild it every time that something goes wrong. So that's basically what she's doing every time she hits the rewind. When something too out of place shows up, she hits the rewind on it. The stork, I think, represents the fact that she is not in complete control. Like, she wants to get everything in the world in order, but she doesn't quite have the full grasp of every single aspect, which is why there's a lot of things that are happening that are going off the rails, such as the neighbor cutting into the cement wall with his hedge clippers, which we know for a fact is not possible in real life. So I think that's one of the main takeaways to take from that whole sequence of events, is that she created Vision, and she's created obviously the babies. But she's not in complete control of everything, and she's kind of unhinged right now because of all the traumatic events that have happened to her.
Well, the Westview, the city, I mean, we saw at the ending closing of the show when Geraldine got thrown out, that Westview, the town, is a real place, or at least it seems like a real place that they can see that. So maybe she, took over that town, or and those people in the town are actually people that actually do live in that town, and they're not so much people that are, trying to get infiltrated or anything. So I think we're still not sure what's going on with those people.
Yeah. What I thought was really interesting was, like, when Vision was talking to Agnes and Herb was kind of glitching out like he was in the Matrix, you know, and
Yeah.
Agnes almost seemed like scared of what was happening, like it was out of control, you know, like either she was scared of Scarlet Witch or scared of something else, like some other force that was controlling whatever was happening, you know, because like she seemed a little freaked out about one, you know, Geraldine being in there because she was not part of the community in some way. But her, you know, glitching out or whatever, but she seemed freaked out from just, you know, Scarlet Witch basically losing control. Like it's almost like she was scared of Scarlet Witch, which I thought like last time we talked that she was in control of Scarlet Witch, but after like Vision's encounter with her, like definitely not, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, she's definitely afraid of her, but like you said before with the whole Agnes theory, I think that that is who she's supposed to kind of be. She's trying to be the mentor for the Scarlet Witch, Wanda, in order to get her under control and stuff like that. But of course, she's afraid of her because the Scarlet Witch is one of the most powerful Marvel characters in their current MCU. So that's probably where the fear comes from. It's like every time things start coming unhinged, then it's like, well, everything could just explode.
Well, actually, you know what I was going to bring up that I was that the babies are born. Obviously, Tommy and Billy are born, right?
Yeah,
So the twins, and that's what's when Geraldine mentions the Ultron and her brother dying from Ultron. That's really what set her off. But going back, well, my real point was about the twins is, the first episode when the boss started choking, glitching out, it was because he was asking, how can you have no kids? How can you have no kids? How can you have no kids? And then the second episode, they were having the whole fundraiser, magic show, everything for the children, which there's no children to be seen. And in this episode, the children are born. So has this whole thing been so that she can have kids, or that someone wants her to have kids, or is it just that she wants this world so that she can have Vision's kids, or what do you guys take away from that?
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be the mantra, like, you know, like it's all for the kids. I mean, that seems to be what the, you know, like show is almost all about, is like bringing those kids into fruition. But like what I thought was super interesting, like was when Geraldine, you know, Monica Rambeau's character got kicked out of the reality and she was still wearing the clothes that she had on, the 70s clothes. So it's obviously whatever reality that she's creating is seems to be, you know, transferring over to our reality or Marvel universe reality, you know? So it's like, so then it begs the question, like, if Vision's there, why can't she just kick him out and then him be real? You know, like obviously it's like this is speeding up reality. So obviously those babies are going to be real, right? Like in the Marvel universe, if they leave that reality, you know, like, I mean, why would her clothes be there? You know, why would she be there? Why would her necklace be there? Like, you know, I feel like there's a lot of questions to be answered there in terms of like where they're pushing the story. But like, if that is the reality that we're living in, like, why wouldn't you just push Vision out and then he would be real? Because we all know he's
I,
dead.
I wonder if the beekeeper at the very end, and first second episode, I forget which one it was, second episode.
second episode.
Yeah.
Supposedly the beekeeper, I've heard people say that he wasn't wearing a beekeeper outfit. He was actually wearing like a hazmat suit, and
Mm.
that it turned into a beekeeper outfit once he crossed over. So maybe Monica Rambeau's character was actually just, they had learned that, so then she dressed appropriately for that time. But maybe she had like a cross or something that she hadn't taken off, that then once she crossed over turned into the
Yeah.
symbol of sword.
Yeah. I mean,
So
yeah, that was on the helicopter as well, like the sword symbol or whatever. And I think that Herb cutting into the fence is kind of a metaphor for whoever's outside the sword
breaking in.
guy's trying to break in, you know,
Yeah.
like, and then maybe he's like one of them as well, one of those agents as well. And that's why he was kind of like glitching out, like remembering who he was, you know?
Hopefully next episode they really start showing more of what Sword is doing. I mean, obviously from the end of the episode we know that Sword is out there. They're fully aware of this. They've been aware. They, first episode, Wanda, who's doing this to you, like, they know what's going on. They know this town is not right. They're trying to figure out either how to stop it or who's doing it. I'm not sure that they're convinced that it's all Wanda that's doing it yet. So I think Geraldine was going in and out of that reality, trying to get information, trying to talk to Wanda, but knowing that she couldn't confront her right up because she didn't seem to know who she was.
Mhm.
So she was playing a part, kind of just waiting for that moment. But then when she saw that, Scarlet Witch, Wanda, had that moment where she opened up about being a twin, she thought, okay, maybe now I can like really question her because she kind of seems to be remembering some things.
Mhm.
But then she quickly snapped out of it. Who here? Why are you doing this?
You know, when she came flying out of that screen, the staticky screen, it seemed a lot like the Natalie Portman movie Annihilation, where like there's that reality bubble that's
Yeah,
there, and they're going in and they're trying
a
to explore
shimmer.
it. So, I mean, if we see a bear with no face eating people, that'd be crazy. All right, let's move on to, final thoughts. Where do you think the show is going to go from here? What are some theories that you might have? Any predictions that you might be able to throw out there that might tell us where you think this is going and how it's going to end up?
I'm gonna go first. I'm not embarrassed by Gil with all his great theories. Honestly, I don't know where it's going. I don't know much about the comics about Vision and Wanda. I know that they're in this alternate reality. I know that Sword is monitoring this. So my hope and expectation for the show is that more of that outside world, like understanding of what's going on, or not that lack of understanding what's going on, but at least showing them they're trying to figure that out, starts happening. So we can start being taken out of just being focused on the television show inside the box, but see what's going on, our our vision from higher up, and really see how the things are playing out. So we can have some real good theories. But go ahead, Gil, so you can bust out some good theories here.
Hey, I'm just gonna keep going with the one I went with last week. I'm gonna stay consistent. Like either she's in some type of facility where she's working through her grief, through her brother, and losing vision, and she's creating a new reality, and trying to deal with that, or she's trying to bring vision back in some way, just like to make up for her loss, and even though it's like a fictitious vision, because you can tell it's definitely not vision. um Something like at that point is going on, and I can't tell with Agnes. Agnes, I'm a little more sure of now because I can kind of tell that she's a little bit scared of Scarlet Witch. So either I think she's more of like an advisor and helping her with her grief than she's trapped her there. Like because she seems scared of her at that. Like when you were talking with the neighbor Herb and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, for the next episode or two, they can't, there's no more decades to go through. So it's the 80s and the 90s, and then we're back to reality, right? Like she's still going through all the sitcoms that she grew up with, and it's making her happy. Like, it's comfort food. That's what she's living through right now. And then there's glitches in the matrix, and she fixes those. But I think as we go, Vision seems to be kind of on his own, pathway. Maybe he's going to have like a Neo kind of thing and kind of come to an awakening and decide that I'm in the matrix here and you've created me or whatever, like I kind of see it going to that. And then there being more action. They can't be more than 1 or 2 episodes of them going through sitcoms. There's got to be more action and more of what's going on outside, because we've already seen what happened at the very end. Like there's some outside action going on.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that, kind of, debunking some of these theories that people are coming up with, and like where she goes from there. Cause definitely, like, I think there's something to, the neighbor getting kicked out, and there being, her 70s clothes on her. So obviously those kids, I still think those kids or things that exist in this WandaVision, this Wanda world, are gonna be available in the Marvel universe.
I'm going to go with these theories. My theory is that by the end of the season, we're going to have a new Vision. Somehow Wanda is going to create the new Vision. Just like in the comics, the original Vision dies and he comes back as the white version of Vision. It might not come back as a white version, but I believe they're going to bring Vision back. Um, at some point, both of the kids are going to do something crazy is going to happen with the kids, because they are a very big focal point of the show right now. And Wanda is very fixated on them, as any parent would be, um, even though these are fictitious. So that's going to be a big point of contention between like the characters that are trying to bring her back under control. I definitely believe that she created this world and there's a bubble out there, kind of like an annihilation. And then Shield is trying to get everything under control. They're trying to figure out things. The little helicopter was, probably like a little drone that they sent in to like first like check things out to see what's going on, and things like that. And then there's the guy in the hazmat suit, or the beekeeper outfit, which turned into maybe a beekeeper. Sorry, the guy who came in as the hazmat suit and maybe is turned into a beekeeper outfit, perhaps. So those are just the first explorations. And they sent in Geraldine, who was supposed to be like the front runner. And I don't know if the other people who already are in there were originally part of the city that got taken over, I believe at the very minimum, Agatha is also working with Shield. I mean, it's not Shield, Sword. Um, and she was like one of the first people to try and get in there and try and get her under control, but she hasn't had any luck, or she hasn't been able to communicate with the outside world. Um, so that's my theories on that.
What about her husband though?
Ralph.
Her husband, I don't know. Maybe she's just trying to keep up her cover. I don't know. Or maybe that that's code for Charles Xavier if they bring the X-Men into it. Like, um, a really interesting thing would be like if they brought the X-Men into it with this series, would they use Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier, or would they use what's his name, the one from First Class? Like, so it'd be interesting how they would fit that into the whole equation. But I definitely think that there's going to be a new Vision by the end of the series, because she's going to bring him back to whatever extent, or they're somehow going to make him a reality. I feel that the kids are going to be, they're going to be winked out of existence. I don't think that she's going to keep them till the very end of the season, because there's going to be like a, hey, these kids are not real. You've created these kids. You can't do that type of deal. And that's going to cause like a lot of like of the conflict that's going to be happening in the next couple of episodes, or towards the middle to the end of it, I think. I think the show is, it's getting really, really interesting. It's, it had a little bit of a slow start for a lot of people. I know there's a lot of memes out there about the show of being like the first episode of the second episode were like, just people nodding off. But this third episode is just like, it's crazy. Everything's ramping up, and I'm glad that it's ramping up because it's getting way more exciting. Anyways, I think that's going to wrap it up for us this time out. Thank you once again, Tone and Gil, for joining me for this roundtable. If any of you guys watching there have any suggestions or theories, we'd love to hear them in the comments. Smash the like button, subscribe if you want to. If you haven't already subscribed, that'd be awesome. And hopefully we'll see you next time.